I'm in Google Drive and I'm going to overview creating a new survey and just some basic overview of Google Forms, since you'll be making your survey in Google Forms to collect data for your final project. And first, you should just be in your group folder. So wherever you created your group folder or you're keeping your project work, I should already have access to it so that I can go in and check anything. And then you're going to just go to New, choose Google Forms, and then create a blank form. So the way this is set up, you have your title up here. So this is where you can put the title that you're going to see in the folder. So you could give this, like you could just say Sci Final Project Survey if you wanted to. Um, Whatever you want to put there. And then when you click into the title here, it's going to automatically have that title. But what you should do is this is what your participants are going to see. So you should give it a title that you want them to see. So for example, let's say that I'm doing a survey on AI. How do you feel about AI? You can edit the text type, so you can do formatting. This is an option throughout forms, which is nice. It's a little bit more straightforward than Qualtrics, so it's a lot more user friendly. You are going to, for this project, you're going to not put anything in the form description here, but you're going to instead put an informed consent here. So I'm just gonna, in this video, I'm just gonna overview some things about Google Forms, and then in the next video, I'll show you what your layout should be for the different sections, and then we'll go from there. So first of all, you have your three main sections here. So go to here to see your questions and work on them and update them. This is where you can find your responses. So we don't have any responses yet because I just started it. And then you can actually link it to Sheets, which is what we'll do later on. And then in settings, you can make some different changes depending on what you're trying to do with your survey. So sometimes I collect email addresses if I'm doing surveys. You will not collect email addresses. This is an anonymous survey, so make sure it's on Do Not Collect. I don't want you to send a copy of their response because you're not collecting an email address. I don't want you to allow response editing, and I do not want you to click on this limit one response. So it should look like this. Just go ahead and leave it as is. What you might want to change is the presentation. I like to show a progress bar because it shows people how far they are into the survey. And then you're unfortunately you can't do the shuffle question order because it shuffles all the questions. And so we can't have the informed consent come after other questions. That just doesn't work. So unfortunately, that's one thing where Qualtrics is better. I'm gonna have you can change the confirmation message if you want to, but I am gonna have you unclick show link to submit another response because you only want them to respond once. And then you're gonna leave the rest of that as is. There's other defaults in here. So again, we're not going to default it to collect email addresses. We don't want to make questions required by default. You could potentially make them required by default if you do not have any questions that require a response without an option to say like prefer not to answer. It's easier to just leave this off. So that's what the settings are for. You can also find, you can customize your theme. So if you wanted to add like a photograph here, it would update your theme. You can change the font in that theme. Here you can go to a survey preview. So the thing that looks like a little eyeball, you can go to your survey preview. It's really helpful to do that, to go to the survey preview. So I recommend using that feature. And then you have your undo and redo buttons. You can also use Command or Control Z or Y to undo or redo. And then you'll find your responder link here once you publish it. This is the share button, so you can share it with other people to work on. It's going to be automatically shared with me because I have access to your folders, so you don't need to worry about that. And then you're going to go to publish when you're done. And I have a different video on that process. There's also this little three dots right here. You can use this to make a copy. You can move it to trash, which don't do unless you mean to do that. And then there's some other things on here. I'm not going to have you do any add-ons or script because we're just keeping it really straightforward. But you might, if you could unpublish form if you decided for some reason you needed to do that. So that's a quick overview of kind of the layout. And then you have these different options here. So this little option bar, this is where you can add questions. So you can click that to add a question. You can import questions. So if you had other surveys that you could import questions from, like I have other surveys in here, lots of other surveys apparently, then you can import questions from there or from other places. Again, that's not going to apply for this project. You can add a title and description. So just like this is a title and description up here, you could do the same thing. So you just want to be clicked, wherever you're clicked, it's going to add after that. So if you add a title and description, it's going to look like that. Again, I don't think you're going to need that for anything, but if for some reason you do, go for it. You can also add an image. So by adding an image, what this would do, let me look at Google Images. Let's look for Terminator, since we're talking about AI. Here we go. So I can insert a picture and it gives me a place to write some information or to put a title. And then again, you can change different information there, but it doesn't have a spot for a question. So if you want a picture that doesn't have a spot where they respond to something, then you would do that there. Um, you can do the same thing with a video, so you can add a video. Again, you could find a URL link already, or you can search YouTube, and then it would look the same. So you can have people watch videos. The last one here is that you can add a section. So the sections are basically page breaks. So if you had somebody take this survey, it would go from, they would have all of this on one page, and then their second page would start here with section 2. And then the nice thing is that you can move the sections around. So let's say that, you want to put section 2 ahead of what we have right now as section 1. You can click on this right here and you can say move section and you can move them up and down. You can also move your questions just by grabbing them. So just these little dots at the top here, can move those around. So it's pretty straightforward. It's pretty easy to use as far as a user interface. So I'm going to stop there, and then the next video is on the informed consent. So you will need to use the template to do an informed consent for class. And then I'll show you how to set it so that it kicks people out of the survey if they don't agree to be in the study.